Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Sudha.
The following is a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 51, Text 48 and 49, given by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, recorded on January 28, 1994, in Mumbai.
Kale varesmin gata kudya sanhibe nirudhamano naradeva ityaham vritorate bashvapadatya nikapaya Gampharyatam spakaneyam sudurmadha. With deep arrogance, I took myself to be the body, which is a material object like a pot or a wall. Thinking myself a god among men, I traveled the earth surrounded by my charioteers, elephants, cavalry, foot soldiers and generals, disregarding you in my deluding pride. A man obsessed with thoughts of what he thinks needs to be done, intensely greedy and delighting in sense enjoyment, is suddenly confronted by you who are ever alert, like a hungry snake licking its fangs before a mouse. You appear before him as death. Purport. We may note here the contrast between the words pramatam and apramatam. Those who are trying to exploit the material world are pramata, deluded, bewildered, maddened by desire. But the Lord is apramata, alert, sober, and unbewildered. In our madness, we may deny God or His laws, but the Lord is sober and will not fail to reward or punish us according to the quality of our activities. Maharaj Muchakunda is herein revealing his realizations after seeing and experiencing the various conditions of life in this material world. All of our temporary designations are a great illusion, because the tendency is that while identifying with this body and the surrounding circumstances of the body, we become overwhelmed by attachments and aversions. We become surrounded by people who continuously reinforce the illusion of this misconception. And thus, we fall victim to arrogance and to pride. And in that pride, we disregard the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We disregard our only true identity, and that is that we are His eternal servants. The spirit soul has no other actual position other than being the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. And any situation that misleads us from that truth is called Maya. Of course, in this world where people are so much in the bodily concept of life, even our own so-called friends, well-wishers, family members, with all good intentions, oftentimes they perpetuate this ignorance. They praise you for what you've done good. They blame you for what you've done bad. And most of all, they want to share with you their own illusory way of trying to be happy in this material world. And therefore, this truly is the world of the cheaters and the cheated. Because everyone in the bodily conception of life is simply cheating one another. Everything that is being said, everything that is being done, is reinforcing the illusion that you are this body, that you are of a particular designation, and that you are the enjoyer of that circumstance. This is cheating. Lovers, relatives, friends are all cheating each other. And what are they cheating each other of? The most precious treasure in your entire life. And that is the opportunity to realize that you are the eternal servant of Krishna. That's all you can ever be. It is your constitutional position. There is no hope of ever attaining any other position other than the eternal servant of Krishna. Illusion is when we forget that and we act not in consciousness of reality. So Muchukunda Maharaj, he was truly a pious king. But here he's explaining that he surrounded himself by charioteers, elephants, cavalry, foot soldiers, generals. And due to this, he more and more considered himself to be this body. He was in deep arrogance. And he claims that he wasted his life. Sarvopadi Vanirmuktam Tatparatvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. In the Padma Purana, this beautiful verse reveals the means by which we can come out of this false pride, this illusion. And that is when we understand everything in relationship with Krishna. These vipadis, these false designations that we identify ourselves with, they are removed when we always remember that we are the eternal servant of Krishna, and we always try to engage in serving the senses of Krishna. It is simple. It is sublime. We must give up the desire for sense gratification. We must learn how to become a servant of the senses of Krishna. The Gita explains that as long as you're attached to sense gratification, there's no possibility of understanding your true spiritual existence. Sense gratification and Krishna consciousness are opposites. They go ill together. Trying to combine the two, Bhagavatam explains, is like trying to light a fire by putting water upon it. We're trying to ignite the fire of love of God within our heart. But every time we pursue the objects of the senses, we are pouring abundant water upon that fire. And yet, Due to the propaganda of this world, we want to justify that actually this little bit of sense gratification is making my spiritual life easier. Which is the opposite. The more you accept sense gratification, the more difficult spiritual life becomes. It is the trick of Maya. That she will tell you, spiritual life is so difficult. How will you expect to go on? You need a little sense gratification just to enliven you, just to give you strength. But actually that sense gratification, it strips away your determination for devotional service. Bhogaishvaya prasakthanam taya parita chetasham vyavashayatmaka buddhir samadho navadiyate. That for one who is too much attached to opulence and material enjoyment, the resolute determination for devotion to God cannot take place. Therefore, Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of Gita, in the very beginning, curb this evil, sinful enemy called lust. Kamesha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahashano mahapapa vidyanami havairanam. Krishna says this desire for material enjoyment is the most deadly enemy. Don't make friends with it. When it is unfulfilled, it causes great anger. But the soul is looking for pleasure. And because the soul is in this body, the mind is seeking pleasure and the senses are seeking pleasure. That desire cannot be given up. The path of bhakti is to seek pleasure in giving pleasure to Krishna. When you water the root of the tree, every part of the tree is satisfied. Janmadyasya yataha. Krishna is the root of everything that exists. By pleasing Krishna, we become truly satisfied. Our mind, our senses, our very soul. Anandam buddhivaradanam pratipadam buddhamrita svadanam becomes blissful when we glorify Krishna. So therefore a devotee struggles to always be engaged in devotional service. Devotee knows that the idle mind is the devil's workshop. Maya is always scrutinizingly searching for some idleness in your life. Where she sees there's lethargy or idleness, she will immediately come and capture that position. But as long as you are fully engaged in Krishna's service, Maya has no power to control you. She can tempt you. She can taunt you. She can make so many proposals to you. But as long as you are engaging your mind and senses in Krishna consciousness, the process of devotional service under the guidance of saintly persons, Maya is helpless. Because to the degree you are engaged in devotional service, you are under the protection of Krishna's divine potency. But wherever you leave room, you can know for sure that Maya is going to capture that position. Because there's either Maya or Krishna. There's no in-between in this material existence. The jiva soul, which is of the marginal energy, tatashta shakti, is always in that position between Maya and Krishna, with the free will to make the choice at every moment. So if we actually want to understand how Krishna consciousness is simple and sublime, we have to very, very carefully keep our mind and senses busy for Krishna. Oversleeping, overeating, engaging in any excessive activities to maintain this body creates a situation where we become spiritually lethargic. The tendencies for sense gratification grow wherever that lethargy takes place. Therefore, devotees must be very careful to be strict in their regulative principles, to guard against opening your mind to be conquered by Maya. Krishna says in Gita, for one who has not learned to control the mind and senses, there's no question of self-realization. So therefore, a devotee feels himself so much blessed and grateful when that person is given some opportunity to serve. Devotional service is not just a duty. It is not a burdensome activity that we have to complete. Devotional service is the moment-to-moment gift of God, which is the only means to liberate us from the clutches of death and illusion. Mochakunda here is explaining that a man obsessed with thoughts of what he needs, what needs to be done, intensely greedy and delighting in sense enjoyment, is ultimately confronted by Krishna. And the example here is that Krishna appears like a hungry snake licking its fangs before a mouse. In the same way, the Lord appears before us as death. But for a devotee who's always engaged in glorifying the Lord, serving the Lord, lovingly associating with devotees of the Lord, chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Krishna appears as the most beautiful, wonderful, and loving friend. To such a devotee, Krishna appears in his beautiful threefold bending form, playing upon his flute, with complexion like the hue of the monsoon rain cloud, beautiful, beautiful, eyes like the petals of the lotus flower, with his hair like the feather of the crow, so deep black, curling across along his moon-like face, decorated with peacock feathers. Krishna appears with the most beautiful, all-enchanting smile that can capture the heart of millions and millions of cupids. Krishna appears in this way to that devotee who always identifies himself as a humble servant of the Lord. But that same Krishna, that same all-beautiful, all-merciful Lord, appears before those persons who think themselves of any designations of this world, like a hungry snake licking his fangs before a frightened, helpless mouse. And this is the free choice that we have in this world. Do we want to see Krishna as Sham Sundar, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santasa Daiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami? Or do we want to see Krishna as the deadly serpent of death? This is our choice. But in the end you will see Krishna. Ye yatamam prapajyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham manuvaratante manusya parata saravashaha. As you approach Krishna, He will reveal Himself. Muchakunda is offering these prayers and is declaring how futilely he has wasted his life. But actually he was not a sinful man. He was a most pious, most religious king. But even in that pious condition, pride and arrogance steals away our intelligence. That is why we find so many times in the name of religion, Maya traps people by limiting their spiritual progress to just being pious, to just following certain rules and regulations, but not truly accepting the position of servant of the Lord and surrendering to that position. Whether it be in India or other places of the world, we have all seen that oftentimes people, they live very clean, very moral lives. They appear to be, from the moral standards, very sinless. They follow regulative principles. And they're very charitable, very pious. And they perform many religious rituals, pujas. They're very anxious on every holiday to celebrate with so many religious ceremonies. And they identify themselves very strictly as belonging to a particular religion, and they make it very prominent in their life. We see there are Hindus like this, Muslims like this, Christians like this. And oftentimes they're very strict in certain types of, we may call sadhana, or regulative spiritual duties such as prayers, other rituals. But they haven't imbibed the true understanding of the nature of their soul, that they are not this body, that they are eternally the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. And they haven't surrendered to that conception. And therefore, all of their spiritual activities only simply serve to feed their false ego. And they become more and more arrogant and proud and self-righteous. And they think themselves better than everybody else. They think, my religion is better than all other religions. And I'm pious and this person is impious. And I offer so many prayers a day and these people do not offer so many prayers a day. And I'm dear to God and they are not dear to God. In this way, if following religious principles makes you more arrogant, proud, and self-righteous, then you must be doing something terribly wrong. And we find this is the situation with almost all religious people who are actually pious in the world today. they're not developing qualities of humility. They're not developing qualities of just really wanting to be a menial servant. They want to be the enjoyer of the fruits of their so-called spiritual activities and disciplines. Krishna consciousness is so rare and so great a benediction because it puts right in the forefront as the all in all, the essence which is secretly concealed in practically all other religious systems. And it makes it the only emphasis. And that is Jivara Swarupoi Krishnara Nityadas. That you are nothing but a servant eternally. You are part and parcel of Krishna. And through humility and devotion and pridelessness you can approach God. And therefore, devotees strive with proper association to perform their spiritual activities in this state of consciousness. We don't want recognition for what we do. We simply want to please Krishna and please his devotees. This is a great pitfall, because here we are giving up so many of the things of this world, living such moral, virtuous lives, performing so many activities. But the tendency of our mind is we want recognition for what we do. In other words, we still want to be the enjoyer. And this influence is so deeply seated within our hearts to want to be the enjoyer, to not want to be the servant. We give up all the gross forms of sense enjoyment. We decorate the deities. But we want people to think, just see how wonderful he has decorated the deities. In this way, what we're doing is we're actually, in the form of the deity, we're actually trying to decorate the worshipable deity of our own false ego. The deity on the altar is the means by which we can approach our real worshipable deity, our pride, and decorate very nicely. She has cooked so nicely for the deities. She has made such beautiful, wonderful garland for the deities. She has made such nice dresses for the deities. Nobody puts the turban on Krishna like him. In this way, we are trying to decorate not Krishna, but our own prestige. We must be very careful of this. We should not be seeking recognition. We should be seeking service. And how to overcome that? It is not easy, but we must pray. We must pray when we're cooking or making the garlands or dressing the deities or cleaning the floor or when we're preaching, that Krishna, please protect me. If some good result comes, let it be for your pleasure. If some recognition does come to me for this, please, Krishna, protect me. It is for you. I am your servant. I am not the enjoyer. I am meant for your enjoyment. Even if we climb to very high states on the ladder of spiritual life, as long as we still have this aspiration to be recognized and enjoy the fruits of our actions, whether it be gross or subtle, then we are in a very dangerous position. Therefore, we must regularly hear this philosophy to keep our false ego in check. Even when we ask questions, we want to enjoy the distinction that he asks such nice questions. No one asks questions like this. Maya is so subtle, so thorough. But if we are always aspiring to be the servant of the servant, you see, it's like double-edged sword. On one hand, if you do not do your service, you'll fall in Maya. On the other hand, if you do your service nicely, then the tendency is to become proud. Maya is so wonderful. If you don't really put your heart and soul into your service, then Maya is going to steal away your mind. And if you do put your heart and soul into your service and you do something nicely, then you're going to be praised, and then you're going to want to enjoy the praise. So what should we do? Should we become Mayavadis? Some people do like that. We have to perform our service. If we don't perform our service diligently, really striving to do best we can for the pleasure of Krishna, then we can make no spiritual progress, no real spiritual progress. But at the same time, we must regularly hear from Srimad Bhagavatam. We must regularly chant the holy names with sincere feeling and attention. We must regularly associate with devotees, with sadhus, who cut away our illusions. And through this process, we must always remember that we are eternally the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. We are not the enjoyer. And as soon as you begin to start to try to enjoy the fruits of your actions, you must immediately understand that Maya has come before me. I must give all credit to Krishna. I must be grateful for the opportunity to serve and not take any credit for what I've done. You see, it is not that we cannot enjoy devotional service, but we must understand how to enjoy devotional service. We enjoy being enjoyed. We don't enjoy enjoying. Does that make sense? Doesn't make sense to me. But I'll try to explain it to myself and all others. We cannot enjoy enjoying, but we must enjoy being enjoyed. That means if we simply give our life, give our time, give our energy for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of his devotees, in pleasing them, the greatest, most wonderful and sweetest enjoyment awakens in your heart. And that is good, as long as our aim is to please the Vaishnavas, to please the Guru, and to please Krishna. But when we're trying to please ourselves through our service, then we are very vulnerable to excessive pride, which is the beginning of our spiritual downfall. So therefore, we should know that as we are progressively engaging in the process of devotional service, our spiritual advancement is not so much to what quantity the physical service we render is. Because after all, some people, they begin, let us say, as a pujari, and they give their life and all their energy, and they may perform that work for 80 years, and they're doing the same service. What progress is there? The progress is in the quality of that service. And what is the quality? That more and more and more we are striving to become selfless in our service. So yes, now we have too much pride. We still have too much desire for recognition. But if you just continue the process of devotional service with strong sadhana and good hearing and chanting in proper association, and we are striving to curb this pride and striving to genuinely please Krishna and take no credit, then gradually through the process itself, we become cleansed of all tinges of false pride. This is the process. And it is a gradual process that must be performed with great enthusiasm and great patience. Sometimes devotees, they have such a rare privilege to associate with other wonderful devotees. And in almost all cases where there is conflict amongst Vaishnavas, in almost every instance where there is disunity and disharmony between two godbrothers or godsisters, it is almost always because someone or both are desiring some distinction. Someone wants to portray him or herself in a superior position. And then people become competitive, egoistically competitive. Or they become critical or even blasphemous of each other, directly or indirectly. So how to maintain the dignity of proper, harmonious Vaishnava association? Srila Prabhupada said, you can show your love for me by how you love one another, by working together in that spirit. That is the order of our Guru, practically the last thing he said before he left this world. But this false pride creates disintegration of Vaishnava relationships. When we want to be the enjoyer, when we want credit, when we want recognition, when we want a superior position. But devotees must know that whatever I can do is by Krishna's grace. And whatever anyone else can do is by Krishna's grace. So if Krishna is doing something wonderful through my godbrother or godsister, if I'm envious of that person, I'm actually envious of Krishna, because Krishna is doing it through them. And if somebody's envious of me, they're not envious of me. They're envious of Krishna. Our materialistic propensity is we enjoy when people are envious of us. If somebody's envious of me, that means I must be doing something wonderful. Otherwise, why would they be envious? Huh? Materialistic life, they love to see people envious of them. The more people who are envious of me, the more I'm doing something wonderful that everyone else wants to do. But we should know that no, I'm not doing, Krishna's doing. They're envious of Krishna. And if I'm envious of anyone, I'm envious of Krishna. If Krishna chooses to do something through someone else, then I should be happy that Krishna's made that choice. And if Krishna decides by his inconceivable will to do something wonderful through me, all I can do is fall at his lotus feet and say, Krishna, I'm just your servant. In this way, we should not take credit. Taking credit is the cause of dissension. And actually, the sweetness on the path of bhakti is most readily experienced through loving relationships with devotees. The love of Krishna is something very, very high and difficult to experience by a neophyte devotee. But the love that devotees share with one another is actually the way Krishna is showing his love to us now. The love amongst devotees is Krishna's love. To feel Krishna's love directly is a very advanced platform. But Krishna will readily, immediately show his love through the devotees. So there's nothing more important to our spiritual progress than learning how to reciprocate with Krishna's love as it's taking place through friendly dealings amongst devotees. But how to maintain, preserve, and develop those loving relationships. To be completely on guard against false pride, arrogance, the desire to enjoy our service, because that will ruin all our relationships. That means we must put Krishna in the center. We must all together give credit to Krishna and to the superior Vaishnavas. We must constantly be giving credit to each other. If you do something wonderful, you should give credit to your godbrothers and godsisters. Don't expect credit from them. Give it to them. Oh, I have done this wonderful service. It is by the blessings of all of you that I could have done this. Actually, the credit is yours. Devotees compete to give credit to each other. They don't compete to take credit for each other. We should develop this type of satsang. Srila Prabhupada, what did he do? He traveled around the world 12 times from the age of 70 years old. He translated over 40 of the most important, essential Vedic literatures. He opened up over 100 temples. He initiated thousands upon thousands of people who never heard anything about Krishna. He established what nobody has ever done. And yet he would give all credit to his disciples. He would say, I'm just an old man. You have done it all. Without your help, I could have done nothing. He never said, I did this. He said, you did this. But did we say, yes, we did it? No. He said, Prabhupada, you did everything. We're like little puppets in your hands. Whatever we're doing is because of your potencies and your grace. So amongst all Vaishnavas, from the highest to the lowest levels, we must learn to have these types of exchanges, of always wanting to give recognition and give credit and take nothing. This will check this tendency in our hearts to want to be the enjoyer of our devotional service and understand that in truth we are eternally the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. And for such a devotee who really aspires with humility and devotion in Krishna's service, he will undoubtedly appear in his beautiful form of Shyam Sundar at the time of the greatest need. Is there any questions? Today everyone's afraid to ask questions. But you can ask something. For the pleasure of the devotees, you should ask some questions.
What is the best way of encouraging our God brothers in engaging in service?
By your example. if we are really expressing joyfulness in our own service, even if you're miserable, you should look happy. As a matter of preaching. Just like some people, they look so miserable. You ask them to do some service, they'll do it, but, yeah, I'll do it. Okay. I have to, I'll do it. Okay. People see that, they think, God, this process is boring. Even devotees, they think, my God, this process is really just so laborious. But whatever you're asked to do, yes, wonderful, I will do it, Haribo! Then people will think, devotional service is blissful. As an austerity, you should perform your service joyfully. You should perform it with enthusiasm, nicely, and joyfully. That in and itself will encourage people. And then if you have some service for someone, they will want to help you. Everyone wants to become joyful. We have seen, if you go to an atmosphere where devotees are really joyfully engaging in devotional service, people just immediately take part joyfully. But if you go to an atmosphere where everyone is just rigorously, just somehow or other, making ends meet, getting it done, and people come and say, my God, this place is really austere. We have seen when people come on Sunday, Radha Gopinath Mandir, everyone's so joyfully dancing and chanting. Somebody comes in the first time, they don't know anything about everything. They're joyfully dancing and chanting. Everyone that comes in these doors, practically, joyfully chants and dance because they see everyone else so blissfully engaging in the process of devotional service. But if you go into a kirtan where everyone's just like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. You think people are going to come in and start joyfully dancing and chanting? They cannot. It's not possible. They'll think, maybe somebody died or something. Maybe I should look very serious. I don't want to offend anybody. So the best way to encourage people is by your enthusiasm and your joyfulness in performing devotional service. And along with that, to understand philosophically how to present in a convincing way the reason why people should engage in devotional service. And the two things combined is very encouraging. Is that all right? Just like Narahari, so blissful when she was living at Tinkerbell High School. She was so blissful to come for darshan, to see the deities, to chant, that all of her friends would just come with her and blissfully chant and dance because they saw it. She's so happy doing it. Must be wonderful. That's preaching. When we met Prabhupada, we saw that Prabhupada was just loving Krishna so much. He was so blissfully preaching, so blissfully doing everything he did, that we wanted to do it. We wanted to help him. And then he gave us a philosophical conviction. Why? Yes.
Maharaj, how will you maintain your enthusiasm in performing devotional service when some bodily inconveniences just overpower you?
By chanting your rounds attentively every day and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam carefully every day. This will give you the spiritual strength to perform the austerity of enthusiasm, even against all obstacles. This Bhagavad Dharma of hearing and chanting is the food which gives us the strength to remain enthusiastic under all circumstances. Any other questions? Ananda Vrindavan, ask a question.
I faced this problem, so I just wanted to ask. I was just thinking it was a very heavy class, so I could not.
Heavy class.
Very heavy class.
Krishna consciousness is always heavy. It's heavier than the heaviest and lighter than the lightest.
This problem I used to face, Maharaj, I think even all the devotees are facing the same problem. Sometimes we have some problem like asthma or something or the other, we have that problem. And Maya is so strong. One side we know it, that Maya is very strong. Second thing, we also know that idle mind is a devil's workshop. So thinking is always there. Because of some problem in our body, we don't come to the temple, or we don't hear Bhagavatam, or we don't do the devotional service as we are doing all the days because of having some problem in our body. How to test ourselves, that is it attack of Maya that is dragging me not coming to the temple, or is it my really having a body problem that is not helping me to come to the temple? How to test myself? Because what happens is, once we are completely okay, when our body is alright, it is very difficult to come once again and have the same path which we are having before. Whatever the activities we are doing in devotional service, to come on the same platform, it becomes very difficult. So how to go on testing ourselves that this bodily problem which I have is a genuine problem, or it is an attack of Maya?
We should try to perform our service the best we can under all circumstances. Krishna is pleased with our endeavor. If you are suffering from some terrible physical condition, even if you cannot do much, if you're honestly, sincerely trying to do the best you can under that circumstance, then Krishna is satisfied. Maya is when we're in such a situation, when we justify giving up and not trying because of some physical excuse. But if you do the best you can, honestly, with proper intention, then there will be no impediment, however physically difficult the situation may be. For instance, if you're very ill and you know that if I travel long distance, I'm going to get more sick, so it's only going to perpetuate this problem and in the future decrease my service more than ever. And you decide that I will stay home today because by getting better faster, I will be able to do more service in the future. If that is actually your intention, and you stay home and you try your best to read Srimad Bhagavatam, to chant your rounds, to keep your mind on Krishna, because your intent is Krishna conscious, Krishna will protect you. You're doing the best you can. But if you think, wonderful, I'm sick, now I have an excuse, I don't have to go to the temple, I can watch television to pacify my mind so that it will heal my body faster. Then you're justifying sense gratification, you're justifying laziness. Then that will be a great impediment to your spiritual progress. You understand? Krishna will see your intent, how honest and sincere your intent is for devotional service. It's not that we're fanatics, that we just push our body to the fag end until we can't do anything. We have to use our intelligence. How in the long run I can do the best service. Thank you very much.